What's going on, everybody? Zara back with another video. Man, it's been a minute. I had so much going on the last couple of weeks, and I'm even a day late with this video. But we are not gonna dwell on this. I have my new PC built, and by new I mean basically new motherboard, processor, RAM, and M.2, which is amazing. She runs like a baby's bottom. I'm going to be posting a bonus video here in a week or two. Just basically going through everything chronologically. I recorded footage on my wife's phone, my phone, just kind of when as we go. And I'm probably gonna get a lot of flack for some things, but you know what? It doesn't matter. I've been building PCs for 15 years, so I know what I'm doing. It's just everybody has their different opinion on how things are supposed to go, but we'll see when the video goes up how people react to things like the application of thermal paste and so on and so forth. So without any further ado, let's get right into this. So if you see on my bottom left of your screen, you're gonna see that there is a talent tree there, and also in dead center you see my boy Zara in his original unhindered glory. This is exactly the way he looked for vanilla, and is exactly how we're going forward. I actually thought about redoing his facial hair to where, had a little bit of a mustache too, but I was like, no. This is how I was in OG Azeroth 15 years ago when I started this journey, and that's how we're going into Classic. Dithis, of course, is a nod to probably one of the best priests on my OG server on Thunderlord. And I'm basically holding on to this for my brother. If they decide to do a TBC server, my brother's going to run a Disc Priest, and I'm going to run, Survival Hunter. So we're going to basically using this as a placeholder until my brother is able to take the name, and I'll delete it and he'll grab it. Night Demon is a nod to my old friend who, if those of you who watch my previous Cigar Cast know, passed away last month. He ran with us since late vanilla and early TBC, and he's been there ever since. And he will always be with me. No matter where I go, he's going to be on my account, some form, fashion, sense of the word. And I'm never going to let his memory fade. And better yet, it's a class that I play, have played, and will play yet again. Maybe not in vanilla, maybe not in Classic, but definitely come TBC, I will, if they announce a TBC server, I will definitely be leveling a Resto Druid, and that will be who I use. Okay, so getting into the nitty gritty of this, my boy, shout out to my boy Grez, one of my patrons. He asked me a while back, shot me a message on Discord, and Grez, I apologize for the tardiness of this, but as you well know, I've had so much going on, the building of the new PC. I had to literally uproot my whole life, move back home so my best friend and I, my brother, the three of us could get together, build this thing, not to mention introduce my wife to the concept of building PCs. So it was a whole extravaganza. It took an entire week to do it, but we're back, and we're going to follow up on my boy Grez's recommendation. As those of you that don't know, check out links in the description below for Twitch for live streaming. Patreon members get free access to early content, and also, not free per se, but for $1 essentially, you get free access to bonus footage, early access to the content, and you also get to make recommendations, and also access to the Discord and a whole lot of other cool stuff, so be sure to check those out. So Grez wanted me to make a video talking about the meta for hunter leveling talents, and not only that, but also in-game progression as well. Well, we're going to break this up into a couple of phases, right? And there's going to be timestamps down below. If you want to just skip ahead, feel free. So, the big thing about leveling a hunter in Classic, number one is the races. So, if we go in here to create character, you're going to have a whole lot of different things that you can do. Obviously, humans are not able to be hunters, only dwarves and night elves for Alliance. And then, of course, orcs, taurens, and trolls. So, the big thing here is if you're a horde, literally anything, any one of these three, and for Alliance, either one of these two are going to be phenomenal choices. But for the sake of the argument, if you want to split hairs, hypothetically, and yes, I'm using the word hypothetically very loosely here, for Alliance, Night Elves are the better PvE in-game hunters. Dwarves are the better PvP in-game hunters. And the same is very true with the Trolls being very high-end PvE hunters. And truly, the Orc is probably, without a doubt, the best PvP one. Tauren is actually very, very good. I'm going to try and get the mail because that's just disturbing to look at. The Tauren Hunter actually has a lot of things going for it. Increased health pool, the ability to AoE War Stomp. A lot of that is just pretty big. Not to mention the resistance to nature damage is going to become pretty key later on. It increases your chance to resist poisons from rogues, so on and so forth. But, you know, the increased health pool can actually go a long way, especially if you stack a lot of stamina in later in-game. Can actually be a huge benefit to you. You're rolling around with 5,000 health at some point as a Tauren Hunter, which can be done. You have to wear certain specific pieces of gear, certain trinkets, so on and so forth, but it can be done. So that one's kind of up to you. The Horde obviously has more in the way of variety, but it's not that big a deal considering the fact that most people are probably going to go Troll for PvE, Orc for PvP, because that resistance to stuns is otherworldly. I mean, that is absolutely out of this world nuts, especially when you get into TBC. When you get into TBC, that stun resist is just huge. But moving beyond that, Stoneform gets you out of blind, which is huge in PvP. It's probably the biggest benefit of any racial, period, outside of the Undead's Will of the Forsaken. And then Night Elves being able to Shadow Meld preemptively out of combat and only has a 10-second cooldown. So basically, you can tie in a Fiend Death, a well-timed, you know, well-placed and well-timed Fiend Death with a Shadow Meld. Gives you a pretty big meta also in PvP. But you cannot use Shadow Meld reactively like you do in Modern WoW. So you have to take that in consideration. But the reason why Night Elves are just a tick above the Dwarves in PvE is because, number one, gun specialization is not all that great. It's great for when you're first starting out raiding because there's two guns, actually. One in particular that is actually superior to all the dungeon entry-level, you know, pre-raid best in slots. But that's only if you're Dwarf, and that is the Flawless Arcanite Rifle. The Flawless Arcanite Rifle gives you +4 guns and +10 range attack power damage. It's also literally only 2 whole damage less than the Dwarven Hand Cannon. But it is also 1/10 of a second slower than the Dwarven Hand Cannon, which means it has an even 3-second cast time and cooldown. So, for those that don't know, the cooldown on a auto shot is critical for your rotation, because you want to be able to squeeze in those aim shots, multi-shots, arcane shots, serpent stings. You want to squeeze all that in during that internal cooldown of your auto shot. So if you download an add-on that has, you know, attack timers, you'll notice that there's this portion when you pull the trigger on a gun or you release the arrow on your bow, there's going to be this white cast bar. And what that is that's you drawing your bow out of the quiver or you're reloading the gun. That is the internal cooldown of the auto shot. That is your bread and butter position to throw out anything else. Whether it's you moving on, you know, going on the run, throwing a concussive shot, arcane shot, multi-shot, serpent sting, aim shot, anything and everything. So the longer that cooldown is, it's going to be completely based. How long that is going to be completely based on the range attack, the attack speed of the weapon. So the longer it is, the bigger it is, the better. So the fact that dwarves already have a +5, stacked that onto a +4, that's eventually a +9, and then you throw on a +3% increased chance to hit. That effectively gives you almost a 7% chance to hit just from the Flawless Arcanite Rifle, plus 10% increased ranged attack power. Okay, that makes that dwarves quote-unquote dwarfs the Dwarven hand cannon. But that's only if you play dwarf. But the beautiful thing about this is that you as a dwarf do not have to worry about rolling against rogues, warriors that are going after all of those other crossbows that give plus chance to hit or plus agility or plus strength or anything else, because warriors and rogues can carry range weapons to buff their damage, buff their stats. So you will be rolling against them. You will be rolling unless you go into a dungeon specifically with getting, you know, free dibs on stuff and early dibs on stuff. It's not going to happen. You're going to have to struggle. It's going to suck. But if you're a dwarf, you don't have that problem. Literally just farm up some Arcanite and then poof, you're good to go. So, whereas in the Night Elf, but that's easy access. See, this is the difference. Dwarves have it better off early on than the Night Elves do, but the Night Elves have it better off towards the end game. Because granted, Night Elves don't have anything, I mean anything in the way of benefits as far as, like, for example, whereas in Trolls have, you know, bow racial, so on and so forth. There's a starting point with stats for every race. Night Elves have the edge on that compared to Dwarves. I think Night Elves start with plus 29, 28, 28, 29, and Dwarves start like plus 21 or 22 agility. So there's a big gap there. That difference, I think it's a legitimate difference of 8 agility. That difference of 8 agility towards the end of, say, 8, I almost said 8.3. Wow. That difference towards the end of the lifespan of Classic is going to be huge, because you're going to stack agility once you get into the, you know, the Nax and you have full tier 3, and you're going to probably respec to be 1-20-30, which is 1 for improved aspect of the Hawk, 20 in marksman, and because you want to get lethal shots and mortal wounds, and then you're going to get mortal shots. I think it's mortal shots, and you get into the end game where you've got that, you know, plus 15% agility from lightning reflexes, which can literally give you over 1,000 agility, which is humongous. If you can get over 1,000 agility unbuffed, you're talking stupid amounts of damage. Plus, the fact that we scale so little past tier 2, scraping out as much agility towards the end game as possible is going to be a huge benefit to you. So it's really just going to come down to, do you want to be that hunter on the Alliance that wants to scrape off as much agility as humanly possible to get peak damage at the end game, or do you want to be that hunter that sacrifices a little bit of damage for just all around quality of life in PvP and open world? Granted, if you're on a PvE server like myself, you don't have to worry about it, but when you do get into the BGs and later in Phase 4, Phase 5, this stuff is going to come in handy. These are the kind of things you want to think about. So, and again, Horde, it's literally just, do you want to be king of PvE with, you know, bow specialization and increased attack speed from, you know, berserking for trolls, or do you want to be, you know, king of PvP with resistance to stun effects and increased damage with pets? Because let no one deceive you. Pet damage in PvP is going to be critical. Okay, knowing when and where and how to use your pet effectively in PvP is huge. You know, if you're using, you know, pets like Broken Tooth or so on and so forth, where they have 1.0 attack speed, or you have the ZG Bat 1.0 attack speed, these are going to be huge, right? And the more your pet's damage is increased, can only be beneficial to you, because your pet, especially if you're fighting a melee assailant, rogues, warriors, shamans, paladins, they are at the mercy of literally not being able to get away from your pet unless they just turn and start pounding on your pet, which in Classic is a huge mistake, because unless they somehow have you CC'd, you're just going to have free damage on them, and it's not going to do them any good. And all you have to do is feign death, drop another trap, and revive your pet. Problem solved. Casters, on the other hand, will be a different issue. Casters, you know, locks have Death Coil, Fear, Howl of Terror. Mages have Frost Nova, Polymorph. So many different ways to get away from your pet or otherwise neutralize your pet. So these are the kind of things you got to weigh in scale. So, without any further ado, again, Trolls, King of PvE, Orcs, Kings of PvP, Taurens, kind of a wild card. You can basically do anything with them, but they are definitely tips. Their scale tips more in the favor of PvP for sure. That heightened health pool and War Stomp, big benefit, big benefit. But let's go back to my boy Xerath. So, looking at the talent trees, as you're starting out, obviously you have no pet, and obviously all you have is, you know, old blunderbuss for us as dwarves, and, you know, our one-hand axe. So as you're going through, two things you want to do. First things first, you want to get rid of your gun as quickly as possible, and just hear me out on this. There's a lot of people that are going to say, Xerath, you just said that dwarves have gun specializations. Would it not be more beneficial for me to have a gun? Yes, it is, but the problem is that the way that item drops and quest rewards are, there are far less guns from 1 to 40-ish when bows really do reign supreme. They really do. Like, there's far more bows that come from drops and also from quest rewards, so it's going to be more in your favor to get rid of your gun very early as possible. Now, when you're in Dunmer Rogue, it's not really an option at first because nobody sells a bow. So unless one drops, it's not going to do any favors, especially considering the fact that by the time you get into Keranos, you can go to Ironforge, you can travel to Darnassus, you can do all these things to, you know, help you find a bow, but then you got to level it back up. So there's going to be some give and take there. You're going to have some options to figure some things out. You go at your own pace. Do not take anything I say as gospel either, or anybody else for that matter. The whole point of the classic experience and reliving this vanilla environment, you do what works for you. Everybody needs to find their own niche. Everybody needs to find their own way. I'm just telling you what my plans are and what I believe to be the best, like, course of action, because the faster you get rid of the gun, the faster you pick up the bow, the faster you level your bow skill, the better. Alright, so moving into the talents, once you hit level 10, this is a no-brainer. Everybody starts this out exactly the same way. Boom, you're going to put one improved aspect of the Hawk, okay? That one improved aspect of the Hawk, granting you access to that 30% attack speed for 12 seconds is huge, okay? Now, again, once you reach level 10, you're getting a couple things. Number 1, you're getting your first talent. Number 2, you're getting your pet for the first time. And number 3, you're getting pet skills, pet abilities, and the ability to tame additional beasts to learn additional abilities. So, whole nother video set aside for that. But right now, let's just focus on improved aspect of the Hawk for a minute. 1% chance of increasing range attack speed by 30% for 12 seconds. So, this is going to have an enormous possibilities. This infinitely increases your ability to kill things faster. Now, granted, a lot of people are like, ooh, 1%. No, next one I'll go 2% and 3% and 4% and 5%. No. Bad call. Bad call. Let me tell you why. The difference between 1 and 2% is minimal at best. Matter of fact, you would have to pour in as many as 4 points, 3 additional more points to really make this beneficial. And at that point, you're wasting talent points, because you could get way more benefit out of pouring 4 points, 3 or 4 points into endurance training and increasing your pet's health pool by over 10%. Because the tankier your pet is, the better. Because you're going to reduce 2 things by doing this. Number 1, you're going to reduce the amount of min pets it takes to heal your pet and keep your pet in the fight longer, which is going to increase your longevity and how long you can last in a fight, because you're not, A, not spending mana from casting min pet, and B, how many pools can your pet take on without having to slow down, stop for eat, drink, whatever. This is all very huge. So this is always going to be your go-to route. 1, an improved aspect of the Hawk, 4, an endurance training, right? Honestly, at some point, I thought about maybe going, 3 here and then just popping a second one here. But the more I think about it, the difference between 1% and 2% is not worth that additional talent point. It's not. with 1 talent point, you infinitely increase your chances because 0% and 1% are light years away. Whereas in 1%, 2%, it's not worth that additional talent point, in my opinion. Now, moving from this position, as soon as you get into the second tier, you're going to pop Improved Min Pet. This is a no-brainer. Reducing the cast time on anything is huge, especially a 10-second cast time. So making it go from 10 to 4 seconds with this talent is absolutely no-brainer. Plus, having the mana cost reduction is huge too, because if you get yourself into a bind, maybe you pulled too many mobs or something, maybe you're on, you're hurting, you're in a rush, and you know, luckily you placed a frost trap that gives you a few seconds to get this cast off, and mobs aren't going to be pounding on you, interrupting your chain, your casting. So there you go. This could be a lifesaver. Now from this point here, you're just going to pop in Thick Hide. Anything to make your pet more tankier is going to be huge. Now at this point, you're level 19. All right, so you've got one more level to go. You're one level away from getting Aspect of the Cheetah. So most people would think, hey, I've got Aspect of the Cheetah. Let me go ahead and pop on 1 point in Pathfinding. So, immediately out of the gate, Cheetah's going to be 33% instead of 30%. You know what? In this case, it's not really that huge of a benefit. It's not. I'm going to tell you, the one thing that everybody makes a mistake here is they go boom, boom, and they just go 36% right at the gate at level 21. Look, again, gaining Aspect of the Cheetah is already going to give you an enormous benefit because you're infinitely increasing your speed. You're going from literally no increased movement speed to 30% increased movement speed. That's it. I mean, you literally increase your gains by 30% permanently. Okay? You're getting a huge benefit there. Once you hit level 20, you get Aspect of the Cheetah. You get infinitely increased movement speed because you go from literally no increase to 30% increase. Anything beyond base compared to what you have is going to be infinitely better. So the importance of pushing it from 30 to 33% at that particular level is not that great. Mathematically, it just doesn't make any sense. What's better for you to do is to increase your pet's movement speed, because you will outrun your pet. You will be able to outrun your pet, and it's going to suck. Plus, this is going to do there's another aspect of this too. The faster your pet can get into the fight, the better. You can chain pools together, and what you're going to want to do, you're going to send your pet in, Hunter's Mark, aim shot, whatever. You're not going to have aim shot at this point per se, but you pull with Serpent Sting, multi-shot, whatever you decide you want your rotation to be. I'm not going to sit here and nitpick your rotation. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. I'm not that cruel. You send your pet in, your pet does a little bit of damage. When you get the target down to maybe half or a third of its health, you find the next target, and you're constantly moving between your white cast bar, right? The ability to move is going to be critical. As a hunter, you're repositioning yourself this entire time. Find that next mob, send the pet on to the next mob, and then you dwindle that first mob down as it's chasing your pet still. Your pet's going to grab the next one, and then you're going to Hunter's Mark that one, and you're going to start attacking that one. And it's just a chain. You never stop progressing. You never stop moving. This is how this works. That's what the whole meta is about. So the fact that your pet would be able to move faster is going to be infinitely superior to if it was still stuck at its base movement speed, and you happen to get that 33%, 36%. So obviously, first option here, Bestial Swiftness. You got to go with that. And of course, you get Aspect of the Cheetah at this point. You're moving faster. Your pet's moving faster. You're having a much better quality of life. Moving on to Pathfinding, boom, boom. Very easy, very no-brainer. You're now moving to 33 and 36% effectively. By level 22, now you can start making some tough choices. See, this is where the meta changes. This is where it goes from being no-brainer to kind of up to you as the player. Personally, me, I like the idea of, go ahead and throwing one more point in endurance training. I think getting that at last 3% to max it at 15% is a pretty big deal. It's just me. Call me crazy, but the more tankier my pet is, the more its health pool is increased, the happier I'm going to be, the safer I'm going to feel. Because that extra 3% is pretty huge. Because that's exponentially going to grow with each level cap. The higher your pet's level is, the higher its health pool is going to be, the more that 3% is going to impact. So, just saying, I think by the time your pet gets to around level 23, which is where it would be at this point, it would actually be more beneficial than to not have it. Because going from, 0% increased damage to 4% is nice, but I'd rather have that 3% increased health pool. Just saying. Now, at this point, what do you do? Okay, so obviously you've got only 1 point left to spend at level 23, so the only place to go is further down in the tree. So you increase Unleashed Fury. You increase your pet's damage with Unleashed Fury. Now, honestly, improved Min Pet is nice, but the fact that, Min Pet is a channeled cast in this game, in this version of the game, I don't really think this is worth it. Going from 15% to 50% chance to cleanse curses, diseases, poisons, magic effects isn't that big a deal, because your pet almost never, especially in the earlier levels, like up to like level 26 at this point, this isn't really necessary. You're hardly ever going to find anybody that's going to have anything really resembling a threat that qualifies as a curse, disease, magic, or poison. Now, once you get into the 50s, mid-late 50s, absolutely, you're going to want this. But starting out, not necessary. But something to keep in mind here is the fact that you're already at level 24, right? You're at 24, and if you hit one more point here, and you keep going into... Hold on a minute. Okay. Okay, so you've got 24 points here. So you have to spend 5 more points to be able to get into this tier right here, to be able to grab Intimidation, which is humongous for you as a hunter, especially while you're leveling. So at this point, you have to decide, I have 4 more points to spend, so I can go ahead and spend as many... I can basically just fill in Unleashed Fury and put 1 in Ferocity, and boom, I'm done. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Yeah, but there's a problem. By doing this, if I were to go ahead and say Intimidation, and say Spirit Bond, Bestial Discipline, right? Well, guess what? You're at level 25, and you just unlock Frenzy. Except now look where Frenzy's at. It's still locked behind 4 points in Ferocity. Bad juju. You don't want to do that. So my recommendation at this point is, once you're at this point where you put 1 point in Unleashed Fury, you need to have, at the bare minimum, if it were me, bare minimum, I would throw on 3 points in Ferocity right here. Just boom, boom, boom. Go ahead and get that get those 3 points in there, and you'll see why here in just a second. So then you throw a 4th point, or you throw your other 2 points in here in Unleashed Fury. So you've got it basically split right down the middle, 3 and 3. Now, honestly, it doesn't really matter what order you do these in. Personally, I would probably just go, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, unlock the next row, Intimidation, without a doubt. And then at this point, you go left, you go right. It doesn't really matter. Either one of these are going to be great benefits to you. The regen isn't too huge, but again, any amount of time you don't have to spend either A, bandaging yourself, your pet, mending your pet, that's a pretty nice benefit to have. And then there's also the fact that Bestial Discipline, Focus Regeneration is going to be really nice too. But if you're smart as a hunter, you're not going to focus starve your pet anyway. So the last thing you're going to want to do is have your pet spamming Claw all the time. A smart hunter is going to use Claw only when the hunter uses things that are going to heighten his own personal threat, whether it's Arcane Shot, Multi-Shot. Tie those cooldowns, tie your pet's focus dumping abilities into your rotation. That way, you throw out a Multi-Shot and it happens to crit, you can automatically know, okay, I need to throw out 2 really quick claws with my pet, offset that aggro that I just threw out. So, personally, I don't think Bestial Discipline is as huge here because it's only 20%. So, I would go ahead and just grab Spirit Bond, and that's what I'm going to roll with. Because I'm going to be the smart hunter that doesn't just auto-cast my pet's focus dumping abilities and leave my pet completely focus starved. Good hunters are not going to do that. This is why there's such a humongous gap between entry-level hunters and the really great hunters, okay? And we'll make a video talking about how to tie in your pet's abilities so that you don't starve your pet of focus. So at this point, you've got 2 points until you can get into Frenzy. And guess what? Look at that. You've only got 2 points left, and you only need 2 points to max to clear Ferocity. Boom, boom. Ferocity is cleared, and Frenzy is now available. See? Look at that. There's a huge difference in the flow of this tree based on what we just did. So, moving into Frenzy, at this point, this is probably the best thing you can have in this entire tree. Even better than Bestial Wrath. Come at me, bro. I'm not even kidding. Like, you hate me? Fine. Hate me all you want. But this is huge. You fill in Frenzy here, and you go to 4 points, right? Now, 4 points is big. A lot of people think that beyond 3 isn't necessary, but I'm like, you know what? 60 to 80%? I'll go ahead and throw in that 80%. 80% is basically getting a guarantee that this is going to proc every single time. You've only got 1 in 5 chance that it won't proc, so I think that's pretty huge. 3 in 5 that it does, 4 in 5 that it does, 1 in 5 that it doesn't, 2 in 5 that it doesn't. To me, that sounds like pretty big gaps. Go ahead and throw in that 4th point, get it knocked out. You've got 1 more point left to spend. Come back up here to Unleash Fury, and then poof, you got Bestial Wrath. You're level 40, and you have your pet has 16% increased damage, has 15% increased critical strike, 15% increased health pool, 30% more armor, and 80% chance when, you know, to increase its attack speed by 30%. So, when it deals a crit, obviously. And then, of course, you've got Spirit Bond, you've got increased speed, your pet's got increased speed. You still have the 1% chance to get the 30% attack speed bonus. All these things are really great. All of this stuff increases your effectiveness as a hunter in the open world tremendously. And in my opinion, this is, again, my opinion. You don't have to follow this at all. This is completely up to you. My logic feels very sound to me. And if you have another theory or another idea about what you think can be better, more beneficial, by all means, throw it out there. I am open to criticism. I'm open to suggestions. If you guys think that it would be, the math works out to be more beneficial for us to say, do something like this, throw 1 extra point into Unleashed Fury as opposed to throwing 4 points into Frenzy, by all means. The earlier we get to the pinnacle of our damage while leveling, the better, and the faster we'll level, so on and so forth. Now, once you get to this point, you can literally do whatever you want. I'm not going to be that person that's going to sit there and tell you that, you know, you have to throw another point here, another point here, 4 more points into Improved Aspect of the Hawk. That's, no. There is no magic formula at this point. Once you get to level 40, do whatever you want. If you want to know what I'm doing, then here's what I'm doing. This is going to be pretty straightforward. Let me dial this back and dial this back. What I'm doing at this point at level 31 is I'm going to fill in the rest of the tree. So Unleash Fury is going to be the biggest one. Finish that off. Then, you know, Bestial Discipline will be nice, so I'll go ahead and fill that in. And, you know what? Let me go ahead and fill in Frenzy. And at this point, I'll go ahead and start thinking, since it's like in my mid-40s, things like poisons and diseases will start being a thing. So I'll fill that in. Now, at this point, what do I want to do? Well, honestly, there's not really a whole lot I can do. Again, the difference between 1 and 2% in Improved Aspect of Hawk's not going to be that big of a deal. I want talents. I want my points that I spend to feel well spent, right? Going from 0 focus regeneration for my pet to 10%, 20%, those will feel like big jumps. Going from, you know, not being able to cleanse my pet with min pet, going to be able to, and then having a 50-50 chance to being able to, also big benefit, big growth. All those points that I just spent are going to feel worth spending. Going from, you know, 1 in 5 chance to being able to fail to 0% chance for it to fail, and to always get that guaranteed increase with Frenzy, again, big benefit. The points that I just spent have all given me something. They all have an immediate impact. Whereas if I go up here and 2% mana reduction, you're not going to feel that. You're really not going to feel it. Considering the fact that you don't want to be using mana costing abilities, because you're going to mana drain yourself and you're going to be starved of mana. You're going to have to stop and drink. You're going to slow yourself down. So already the term efficiency needs to be how you approach pulling mobs in your rotation. You need to be thinking about that instead of letting your talents do all the work for you. Think about it ahead of time and say, you know what, I don't really need that 2%. I'll come back to that later. And improved concussive shot, yeah, that's nice. That 4% chance to stun. But again, there's not going to be really a desire to stun. That's really more of an added benefit for PvP, because if you're using concussive shot, you're probably kiting the target anyway, or preventing it from getting to you or your pet faster than it normally would. So if it stuns, great. If it doesn't, well, it's not the end of the world. So it doesn't really impact your gameplay as a quester and a leveler. No. The big ones that you're going to want to go for are here in the survival tree. So look at this. This increases your damage and also increases your critical damage. So for monster slaying, it's beasts, giants, dragonkins. For humanoid slaying, it's humanoid targets. So depending on where you are, say if you're spending a lot of time in the Swamp of Sorrows at this point, you're in your mid-late 40s, or you're spending a lot of time in the Blasted Lands, so on and so forth, you're fixing to go into the Burning Steeps with those dragons. Monster slaying is going to be huge. Right off the bat, with 1 point, you are getting increased damage up front and increased crit damage, right? And that acts for you. And if I'm not also mistaken, correct me in the comments if I'm mistaken, because I haven't been able to test this. I believe it's also your pet's damage too. This is huge. This is big impact with a single spin of a point, with a single point. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to throw in 3 points here. I'm going to throw in 3 points here. And at this point, boom, I'm level 52. And here's what you can do at level 52. Matter of fact, you can actually do this at level 51 if you want to. But here's what I'm going to do. And now we're back to square one. You've got Bestial Wrath. You have Aim Shot. Now we're back at square one. Now you can do basically whatever you want. I've gone back to my original meta, my original 31-point talents in the Beast Mastery tree, with the exception of putting only 4 points in Endurance Training and putting 4 points in Unleashed Fury, because now I have this option. I have an option that I didn't previously have at level 51. Since I'm level 52 right now, I can go back and I can say, okay, do I want that 4% increased damage at this point, or do I want that 3% additional health? And if you're at such a high level now, level 50 plus, it's really going to be up to whatever you're having. If you've noticed that the increased damage has been more beneficial up to this point, then go ahead and throw that point in Unleashed Fury. If you've noticed that your pet is, damage is okay, damage has been sufficient, you don't really need a, top end damage, and you notice you're still struggling to keep your pet alive a little bit, throw it in Endurance Training. It's really up to you. And now, literally at this point, it doesn't matter where you go. It does not matter. Honestly, at this point, I would just slap on Unleashed Fury, Bestial Discipline, and then you can even go improve Min Pet, and at that point, you're level 57. I mean, you could literally just throw your last 3 points on Hawkeye and be done with it. Now, a lot of people are like, well, why didn't you just throw points into Hawkeye to start with? Honestly, by the point you get around to throwing points into Hawkeye, you're going to be in your mid-50s. It doesn't matter, because you've been so used to having, leveling without it. Spending the last couple levels with it as opposed to not having it isn't going to be that big of a deal. Besides, you're chain pulling with your pet, unless it's a tight pack of mobs that you need to pull them and kite that single mob out and let the pack reset and then send your pet in. It doesn't really matter. I mean, having Hawkeye is not going to make or break the game. It's not going to give you that big of an edge. So, there you have it, guys. That's it in a nutshell. That's what I'm doing. That's how I'm leveling. Again, this is not there's no secret formula. There's no, this is going to work opposed to not. Everybody knows that BM is the superior leveling spec. That's a no-brainer. It makes total sense. Your pet's super tanky. Your pet's doing a majority of the damage. So the game is less, and it scales very, very good early on in the early levels. You don't really need, high. You don't have to give, you're not depending on weapon damage to do bulk of your damage. Whereas if you went marksman, you would be dependent on weapon damage. Survival gives you a lot of toys to play with, a lot of crowd control capability, but we're trying to kill things quickly, not keep them, caged up. So that's it. That's it in a nutshell. If you got any questions, comments, concerns, just hit me up down in the comment section. Let me know what you guys think. Give the thumbs up to the video. Be sure to subscribe for more footage and more videos. Classic is so close, guys. I think I'm going to go ahead and jump off here, and I'm going to do the stream. Be sure to come follow me on the stream. check out Twitch for live streaming. Links down in the description below. And with that, guys, I think I'm going to call it a day. I'll see you guys in the next video. Love you as always. Stay kind to one another. And we'll see you in the next video. Zero out.